good morning, everyone. We are honored today to have in our office the business CEO and executive, Mr. Mark Silverman, who I just got actually his book, and I gotta tell you, this is not his first book. He's gonna talk about all his book today because we're excited about knowing about leadership and what is the Rising Leader is about. I can't wait to read the book and give my reviews about it. But Mark, thank you for being here. I'm so excited to have you.
My pleasure. You're in my neighborhood. It's easy.
Thank you very much. Tell us a little bit about yourself, a little bit bio about you, and what got you to be where you are, and your passion, and about this book. What is behind this book?
So let's see. Where do we start? I'll start where I usually start is I didn't have a great start in life. By the time I was in high school, I was an alcoholic and a drug addict. And by the time I went to college, that was more important than classes. So I dropped out of college within the first month and proceeded to party myself into homelessness. So when I came to Washington, D.C., I needed to borrow money from my brother who lived in Washington, D.C. To survive. I was living in my truck. I was 135 pounds, and I was homeless when I came to town. So that's how my life started. I was 27 years old. So I got a job at the Four Seasons. I was waiting on tables, and I went to college one class at a time, two classes at a time. I finally got a professional job after I got married and had kids. I started to have kids in technology sales. So I didn't actually graduate college until my 40s. I didn't actually get a professional job until my late 30s. So I come at this very, very late in life. But what happened was my success was pretty fast and pretty meteoric. So I went from homeless guy to millionaire. To live in Vienna, Virginia, in committee chair for the Boy Scouts, that kind of thing, pretty quickly, and kind of had whiplash to that. So what happened is a few years later, and we can talk about the fact that if you don't, often people who are very, very, very successful, who are just super driven, are often driven by unhealthy things. I'm not saying success is unhealthy. I'm not saying drive and passion is unhealthy. Yeah. But when people are driven to a certain point, and you look at the uber successful people, there's usually a pathology or something they're running away from to become successful. For me, it was I never wanted people to see me as that homeless guy. So I worked so hard, burned the candle at both ends. As my ex-wife used to say, you're a 10 as a husband, you're a 10 as a son, you're a 10 as a father, you're a 10 as a worker, and that burnt me to a crisp. And I couldn't sustain that success. So in 2008, 2009, my marriage fell apart. My career started to fall apart. My health fell apart completely. Everything I had built, which was running on those fumes because my insides hadn't caught up with my outsides, would just destroyed me. So depressed and suicidal, I decided that because I had children, I needed to do something drastic to change my life. What I decided to do was run the Marine Corps Marathon. I couldn't run a mile, but I heard someone on the radio who said, everybody can run. He was an ultra marathoner named Stu Middleman, and he said anybody could run. So I called him and said, would you be my coach? I need to run the Marine Corps Marathon. So I made the decision that I was going to make $1 million, run the Marine Corps Marathon, and give $60,000 to charity. Those were my 3 goals for 2009. And I trained and I ran the marathon. I made money. I gave the money to charity. But here was the thing that I was doing during that whole time, because I had gotten a new job, which my career took off again, is I was reading every self-help book ever written. I was reading every spiritual book, pop psychology, positive psychology, every book, like you said you love Brene Brown. This was before Brene Brown. But every book like that I could find. I was listening to them while I was training for running. Then I was learning to meditate. I was journaling. I was doing all the things that they say you need to do in order to kind of rebuild yourself. So when that year ended, I went back, I was in my career, and I started looking around. And I noticed that all the other people who were in the 1% with me were also sacrificing their health, their marriages, their mental health in order to chase success. Again, success for me isn't a bad thing. It's the success at all costs that scare me. And I watched it cost so many of my contemporaries so many things. So it was a few years later when I was going on a retreat that one of the people who ran the retreat suggested I try their coaching program. And they said, you know, if you don't like it, we'll give you all your money back. We just think you should do this. Talked to my ex-wife about it, and she said, you should do this. This is absolutely who you are. I've been saying this for years. We didn't know what it was because we didn't know what coaching was. We didn't have a name for it, but you should teach people what you do. So that's how I became a coach. And the main reason I'm a coach is because I see people who have won in life. I see people who have achieved really wonderful things, and they don't experience it. They experience the lack. They experience what they haven't achieved. They experience the stress and and everything that drove them there. So that's the secret of why I'm a coach. I'm an executive coach. I teach leadership. I help people make more money. I help people get promoted. What I really care about is what is the quality of their inner life and their outer life as they're climbing the ladder. So that's why the books and why I do everything.
And this is not your first book.
No.
Correct? Yes, I know that. So I have a question because it did come up about your life and your story, and it seems like you did work hard to get, and you had like a vision, and you were passionate about something. Do you believe in luck in life to get where you want to be?
Yes. I believe in grace. For me, I don't know how much of my hard work, how much of my putting the effort in versus how much luck and grace made the difference. I don't, so it keeps me grateful. And if I thought it was all me and all the work I did, I'd be pretty puffed up with, I'm great, I did this. When I don't know, if I didn't get this one particular job, if this one engineer who helped me turn my career around didn't come on board and help me land that big sale, where would I be? So I worked really, really hard, and some things fell my way. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So if my brother hadn't said, you're going to go to AA and NA, where would I have been? If I remember looking at homeless shelters in Seattle, Washington, before I came here. Had I gone to a homeless shelter there and not come here, what would have happened? Right. So I think there's serendipity in luck, and there's hard work. There was someone, a political person up in Baltimore when there was a crisis there, and she had to give a press conference, and she smashed the press conference. And she said something about, I've been preparing all my life for this 1 minute opportunity, right? So the luck that you make when the opportunity comes, right? So every time I will say, I was terrified with every job I took. I was underqualified for every job I took, including writing a book, or writing books, or podcasting, or coaching. Everything I've done terrified and scared, and over my skis. So that's making some luck, and they hit.
But look where you are right now. Tell us a little bit about the Rising Leader. I know probably you want the people to read it, that's the most important, but how long it took you to write this book, and what is your goal was to write this book? What are you, maybe I would say, I don't know if I say the word teaching, or what do you want, what the message you have
Sure.
in mind on this book to tell the leadership? Because just again, I want to mention this. Mark, he's not a business coach. He's a CEO executive coach. So that's the difference between business coach and we're talking. See, that's why he did work with a lot of from Dell, Microsoft, and all these high executive in big organization in the country. So that's different. That's different.
That is different. My friend Dr. Jeff Spencer coined this phrase. He says, "I don't have goals, I answer callings. I don't have goals, I answer callings." And everything I've done is basically answered whatever my intuition, whatever the opportunity showed itself. So when I wrote my first book, Only Tens, I wrote this because I was struggling as an entrepreneur, and I couldn't figure out how to be an entrepreneur with ADD when I first became a coach. And I could not figure out, because I was used to having a sales manager or a boss, hounding me and looking. Now I'm sitting in my office by myself, and you were an entrepreneur when you first started. Like, you sit in your office and you go, what do I do now? So I wrote the book for myself on how to do a business with ADD, and it sold 1,500 copies the first day. And it sold another 1,500 copies, and it sold tens of thousands of dollars. It sold like crazy. So my coaching, had a lot to do with overwhelm and having people have a more sane relationship with success and busyness. But my business started to shift from entrepreneurs to the corporate ladder. The referrals that come to me, and all my business is referral based, were people who were fast rising leaders, people who were moving up the ladder really, really fast, and didn't have the leadership skills or didn't have the people skills necessary to succeed at that level. They were really good at something. Now they had to have success through others, and they didn't know how to do that. And most of the time I was getting referred by people who would say, "Mark, so-and-so's amazing. I want to promote them to CFO. I want to promote them to CIO. I want to promote them here." Or they just got promoted, but they're driving everybody crazy, or they're driving me crazy, or they won't speak up at meetings. Can you help? And so that's what I started to, that's what my business shifted to, is these fast rising leaders and teaching these leadership skills. We were working on what my next group program was going to be and what I was going to do. And I was doing a lot of prayer and meditation about what should be next, and I was going on retreats. And it was very clear that this leadership thing was next for me. And I never called myself a leadership coach. I called myself an executive coach. I called myself a transformational coach. I never called myself a leadership coach. And one of my close friends says, "Mark, you coach leaders, you teach leaders, you create leaders all day, every day. That's how you make your money. Let's codify what you do." So she stuck me in my office with a bunch of sticky notes. And she said, "You can't come out of your office until you have written down everything that you do with your clients." And it took about 8 hours. And those sticky notes came into 4 different sections. What I teach my clients is how to lead up, how to become trusted advisors to the CEO. I teach them how to lead across, how to be leaders on teams of leaders, right? It's much easier to lead a team of people. It's a little easier to lead yourself. But when you have a team of people that you're working with that all have ambitions, that all have ideas they want to impart, that all want resources, that all are as smart and as competent as you, how do you lead on a team like that? And then how do you lead your team, and then how do you lead yourself? How do you be your best in all situations? So the book is 4 sections: lead up, lead across, lead your team, lead yourself.
And is already coming in those 4 books, or they already?
No, that's all in the Rising Leader.
Okay.
All in the Rising Leader Handbook.
So do we need to read Only 10, the first book?
No, because Only 10 is summarized in leading you in the Rising Leader, right? And plus, besides, if you go to my website, you can get Only 10 for free. But if you go to my website, markjsilverman.com, there's videos, because most of my clients have ADD also and will not read my book. So they asked me to make videos. So I make videos on everything that's in Only 10s, and they could just watch little 5-minute videos and get the whole program for free.
Mark, we know that nobody is perfect, right? It doesn't matter who you are. You can be big CEO of a big company, and you can be just a simple worker. Nobody is perfect. How can you tell us a little bit about how do you see a leader who is really successful? What is differentiate between a successful leader and leader failing?
So the first thing is, if you're going to lead people, I think that one of the most important things is to want to see other people succeed more than you want the credit yourself. You're going to get your props if your people succeed. So success through others is the first thing. The other piece is to understand that, and you know this is running a company, is that the people take way more time than you think. Your job is now people. Your job is, creating a vision for people, creating excitement for people, creating work conditions for people, understanding what motivates them. So everything about leadership is about people, which most rising leaders don't understand how much time they're going to have to take to bring people along to where they want to go. So those are two. And then the third is the ability to have difficult conversations. If you can't have difficult conversations like giving feedback, like delegating, right? Like holding people accountable, like learning about people or being vulnerable yourself about your shortcomings. If you can't have those difficult conversations, it's really hard to lead people.
Wow, this is great. Tell us a little bit about programs you do during the year. If anybody is listening right now as a business owner and leader and entrepreneur, what do you have? What kind of couple of area or programs you do during the year to help leadership other than one-on-one? Because we know sometimes maybe the one-on-one is too much money. Oh, we can't afford. We love to work with Mark, but what can Mark other way also can help? The medium to small to medium sized businesses to succeed. Because I know you have passion. You pass on this, and I know you have passion. And again, if you see a successful leader, that's again, it come up to you that that's something you will feel good about too, to see somebody you work with and they are very successful right now.
Sure. So I don't actually at the moment have any public group programs. I usually do them for leadership teams in organizations. So I'll come in and coach an entire leadership team, both on the leadership skills that we talked about in the Rising Leader, or on the mastering overwhelm, because people are working so hard. I do have programs that I refer people to that are quite affordable. I'm building one for myself that I've just been slow to put it out to the public. Because
is that going to be kind of like mastermind?
Right,
classes,
a mastermind kind of thing. Again, like our mutual friend Katie Nelson does, because it makes it more affordable. And here's the secret about those group programs: is even though one-on-one coaching is effective, you get so much more. Even though they're less money, you get so much more being in a cohort of people.
Absolutely.
And I should be doing more public stuff like that. I just haven't had the.
Is that the time, you think? Or
it's not the time. It's again. I answer callings. I'm not pushing. I'm not feverishly trying to grow my business at this point. I love what I do. I love my clients. I love how I interact with them. And every time I add things into my business, it gets a little more complex than I want at 62 years old. So it's a push and pull for me. So I'm trying to get the right team in place so that I can do it without overwhelming myself.
Yeah.
So I have a full roster of clients, and I speaking and doing all those things. It keeps me busy enough. And I really am a homebody and an introvert, and like my dogs and my fish.
That's great. What is after the Rising Leader? What is in mind for Mark after this book? Because this is a newest book.
I have no idea, because again, the Rising Leader my publisher has been hounding me for years to write a spiritual memoir. What was it like going from homeless? Yeah. What was it hitting rock bottom, and actually building this kind of a person? So she's been hounding me for that for a while. So as soon as the internal green light for that shows up, I'll start writing that book. But I don't, writing books for me isn't like that easy. I'm not a book writer. It has to come out from this book has to be written, Mark, and you're the person to write it. Okay, I'll do it. Because I have severe ADD. Sitting down and putting books together in an order is a little hard for me.
Any advice would you give if somebody is thinking about writing a book? Any advice?
Start today. Pick a time to write, and write every day. If you can, write online every day. Write a small essay, write a small blog post, do videos, right? So I started my podcast. When I started my podcast, I was doing interviews, and the producer said she would only produce me if I did a solo podcast every other week and did an interview every other week. I said, why a solo podcast? She said, because your ideas need to be out in the world.
Yes.
So every other week, I had to come up with something which turned out to be chapters in a book, which turns out to be blog posts. So do not wait to start. Write now. Write in private if you can't let anybody see it. Write publicly so you can get feedback on your ideas. Nobody's going to remember it anyway. Very few people will read it anyway. I'm responsible for so many people writing books. And one of the things I tell them is, nobody's going to read your book. Don't worry about it. Write your book. Nobody's going to read it. They're going to read the first couple pages, and then they're going to call you and hire you because they don't want to read the book. And that's gotten so many people over the hump. But if you want to write, write.
Yeah. Mark, last word, advice. We would love to hear a couple of advice from you, especially, there is some probably who is listening right now. Maybe people didn't start a business and they're thinking to start, or people already in the business and in early stage, or maybe some people successful already on $3-4 million range a year. What is like the most important 3 things or 4 things you can advise a leader from your perspective?
So you're saying to start
if they are startup, or maybe they're thinking about to open a business or be a leader, and they have some regret or anything like that.
Okay. So the first thing is, YouTube is free. You can get a master's, a doctorate degree in leadership, in management, in online writing, just for free on YouTube. Fill yourself with as much wisdom and insight. People have done this before you. Like my book's free on my website. Like there's so much free material. Second, get into a mastermind. I would not be an entrepreneur if I wasn't in something like Vistage.
I did that at the beginning of my business.
Or Katie's mastermind like you did.
I did.
Do not do this alone. This is so hard. Other people have insights and help for you. So no, don't do this alone. And the last piece is trust yourself. Like, you get one go around at this life, and nobody's good. After your grandkids, nobody's gonna know you existed. Like nobody knows we were here. Like, someone will find my book, but nobody will know who Mark Silverman is. Like, do it now. Nobody cares. Live your life. Follow your dream. Do what it is that you want to do, because it's short.
Yeah, life is short. You don't know when your day comes. Yeah.
No.
Wow. Mark, I am so honored to have you, and thank you for sharing your story. You really built basically from nothing, and look where you are right now. And this is all it's about. I would say probably the people around you did help maybe a little bit, because they've been
I've always
pushing
had people
you to
around.
do.
So I want to. You've said that several times. Of look where I am now. For me, where I am now may be different from what you're saying. Where I am now is I have 2 beautiful, amazing adult sons who are close to me. I have a wonderful relationship with my ex-wife. I have a husband who I love and a home that I love. I have deep friendships, and I make a difference in the world.
Yeah.
That I wrote books, that I made money, that I did any of those things takes such a far back seat. And the only reason they're important is because I was scared and I did it anyway. I was scared to write a leadership book. I was scared to do a podcast. So I was, that's why those things are a success. But for me, it's the relationships that I have in my life that are where I am today.
Well, good luck and congratulations. I have to say congratulations, because that was a long journey.
Thank you. Congratulations to you with what you built and all the people you touch in Loudoun County. When I did my research on you before I came here, you touch so many people and support and help so many people. It's awe
because the
inspiring.
community is important. That the thing is, the community is important. And like you said, you had parent and family did help you. I would tell you there's a lot of successful leader in Loudoun County and Fairfax County. They did help me too. They did help me to where I am right now. Because I always say, people think that, oh, we are the best of the best. It's not true. We learn every day new things. I still, until now, every day or every week, I learn new things from other people, what they're doing. Well, I listen, I hear people, what they're doing differently. So it's all about learning and, like you said, and keep going. Don't give up. I say, I learned this from my dad also. He said always, nothing is impossible. And if you have something you want to pursue, go for it. And that's important. So
That was the advice you were looking for.
thank you, Mark. Thank you
Thank
for
you.
being here. And we appreciate your time very, very, very much.
Thank
Very
you.
much.
Take care, everyone.